So let's start. We're going to be, and we were playing with the Super Bowl. Most of you, maybe all of you, have submitted this new Winning Entanglements protocol predictions, and we'll be looking at them. And actually, together, the plan is to actually make a prediction. So I have not done that yet. After we do it as a group, I'll then send it off formally to the group as we usually do, and then the group emails will show the prediction. And then we'll decide whether or not we actually want to go further, and we'll talk about parlays a little bit. So the whole kind of objective of the Winning Entanglement protocol, and I'm just going to give a brief summary of it again, giving you an opportunity to talk about it. And also when I talk about it, I don't know, I feel it helps deepen me and my appreciation of precognition and what's happening here. But it really comes down to communication. And it's communication with what you're conscious of. I mean, the reality is the only thing you are conscious of, your self-awareness has, is in the now. I mean, in many ways that defines the now. So you have this consciousness, which is right now, and then there's everything else, okay? We'll call that, I like submerged consciousness now for the subconscious mind. Because it gives the image, like a submerged iceberg, that there's a lot more below the surface. And indeed, we all know that is true. So there's a now moment and the sub, and it's a communication process between that. The precognition comes somehow from the sub, and it shares it with your now conscious moment. Ultimately, I think virtually all of us come to realize that after some preliminaries, after you learn a protocol and maybe you fool around with different protocols and all of that, I'm a believer that it's not the protocol. You very quickly become your own teacher in how to get this precognitive information up to the surface and record it in a transcript, and you become your own teacher. I mean, you're communicating with your own sub, and learning how to do that better and better is up to you. There's a model here which, you know, over the years, there's so many different ways of looking at this. The fact that time is not linear is shown best by precognition, and time is a mystery to modern-day science. They're working very hard to bring theories that will include time in ways that accept general relativity, quantum mechanics, stuff like that. But with respect to consciousness, this is a model which I think is helpful for us who are doing remote viewing, associative remote viewing. And that is to first recognize that in our normal life, our physical self, events move forward in time. I mean, they do. We're going to be doing the Super Bowl Sunday tomorrow. We're going to be watching it, many of us, hearing about it. But right now, you had events of your RV sessions before the Super Bowl. We're going to be making a prediction based on what you did as a group. And, okay, so that's normal linear time. The event will occur, and then there'll be an outcome from that event relative to whether you did over or under, whether you chose the team, whatever the predictions were. Normal linear time. After the event, we'll be doing our feedback sessions. Now that's normal linear time. Precognition shows rather clearly that time can go the other way. I mean, the information after the event is after the outcome, okay? All I've done is reverse these, but somehow information is able to go from here. I don't know. Does it go through the event? All I really know is that virtually all of us have situations where we get information, the equivalent of a feedback time, which feeds back to the earlier time when we're doing our remote view sessions. We've seen these great hits, and where did the information come from? It came from here. I'd like you to imagine that just like in forward time, you have your, I don't know what to call it, an ego. You know, mine would be like my Marty physical self, intellectual ego, the one that is sitting here and going forward in time. And when I'm here after the event, I have a memory of my remote view session and stuff that came before. And you want to know something? My memory is not perfect. But that's the way I am in normal linear forward time. Imagine, and I'm starting to do this now more and more, and it's bringing what I consider for me, remember, we're each our own teacher, and that includes me, new insights into precognition and consciousness, that there is a part of me in my submerged consciousness that actually can go and is living, just like my ego Marty in information space goes forward, and I do that in physical space. But if I think about the information, Marty goes forward in time. What about a part of Marty's subconscious which actually goes with what Marty would consider backwards in time, but in its reality, its forward in time is this way. It will experience the after event, what we call the after event, before the Super Bowl happens, like now, and it'll then go before the event. This will be its experience of time. The words that do this are so difficult to express, and yet it's making more and more sense to me. It's like another part of me, and I've even named it. I've named it Yitram for me. Yitram happens to be Marty backwards. That resonates with me. You know, other people might want to, you know, a lot of people have affectionately called their subconscious mind their subby. But I'm going to call that part of my subconscious mind that goes backwards Yitram. Now, what's interesting is Yitram does not have a perfect memory either, just like Marty. So right now, Yitram and Marty are here. We are together. I mean, Yitram experiences now moments as well. For Marty, I am looking to the future, wanting to get information. Well, I actually did one of the transcripts. And you want to know something? I asked Yitram to remember and share with me what Yitram remembers. Because remember, Yitram has already been to after the event. Do you think they should put me away, folks? Oh, Pat McDonald can't get audio. I'm sorry. I see that. Okay, well, I find that perspective valuable because somehow the information is getting from what I normally consider the future back to me, and having an entity within me that lives that way seems satisfying. And that entity is with me with every now moment because it goes the same way. Having both those entities around leads me, or it's another way to get to what I believe for a long time, which is that the reality is that there's this idea of being outside of time. Scientists now have come up with multiple dimensions to give that idea that there's something outside of time that allows you maybe to look at all of it. Einstein had a famous saying that the only reason for time was so that everything doesn't happen at once. And I think all of these are here together. And the big link for us is to get the connection, the entanglements between these two. Okay, so that's kind of my view of the best philosophy associated with precognition. And you should understand, and as you go through more and more of these we predictions, I think it'll actually become clearer and clearer that we is actually designed based on that philosophy. You have only seen one photo, one target associated with the Super Bowl so far. Well, Yitram and all of your subs that gather information from the future will see their first target, the ones that are going backwards in time, after the Super Bowl. I've tried to balance this, taking the perspective that the subconscious and the conscious are equal partners. They want to communicate with each other. That's what this is all about. And this protocol is set up in that fashion. Okay, so let's now look at the raw data which you all supplied. And to do that, I really have to go to Excel. I've summarized it all based on your inputs, all of which come into our server, and then I'm writing programs to better and better organize it. And I certainly haven't completed that. But I've taken the data from there and put together this information. So I had 4 groups. Fourth group is down here. And let's just go through them and look at it and make sure you understand this. If you don't understand this, please ask questions. I've limited this first column just because I didn't think the names of the people mattered very much. But this is for the first groove, and the first groove people are doing the normal over-under for the entire game. So I think all of you understand that. Just total points. We don't even know what the line is yet. We can look it up if you want to later, and I'll be putting in the formal predictions later. Each of you, for both of your transcripts, put in the CRs. Now, you didn't know at that time which was over and which was under, and those are randomly chosen by the computer. Nobody knows. I don't know which is which. Everything here is just super, super blind. The photos you saw, I didn't see before. Consciousness did not see the photo that came up here until you did. And so, no question, this is all precognition. So that was randomly chosen. So 3 people made predictions here, and you can see what we have. The over CRs and the under CRs for each person. So we do have one, remember 3.5 is wagerable. We have 1% prediction, let me just mark it in gold, which is wagerable here. Obviously, where I would be more comfortable as a general manager if there were two, but I like the fact that there's a separation here between the CRs. I find that important as a general manager. So forgetting about anything else, because the other predictions are on independent parts of the Super Bowl, what would you suggest as part of the group? Do you think we should make this the prediction for over and under, whatever the line is? What do you guys think? Yeah, I know. Nobody likes to talk. Russ, is one enough in your opinion? Yep. You don't think so? And that's funny coming from you because you're a group of one. So you actually trust yourself. No, not here. I see, when you don't know the person's background. Now that turns out to be a very interesting point because we are going to gather, and the beautiful part about using servers, computers, is saving this data. We will be getting history on people. But my philosophy, until we get history, as the group manager, I have gone in cases with one when there's this sort of separation, a separation of two or more. So I heard you. Anybody else want to chime in? I don't think you did. At least I didn't see it, Russ. It didn't
Mark,
make it.
Is it possible to submit transcripts to a different group, thinking we're doing it for one and then putting it in another? Will it accept it?
Unfortunately, at this point, it will. I've made the link such that the group is defaulted to the right group, so unless someone changes it, it goes into the correct group. So there have been problems like that, and I guess if I keep doing code changes, which always opens up other problems, I could try to fix that. Anyway, Russ, I'm sorry. Did you have high CRs enough that I ought to trace it down? Do you know if you were over 3.5? You had a 4 and a 1.5. Okay. Here, why don't I tell you guys don't mind if you see each other's stuff, do you? This will be educational for you. I'll show you the kind of information which is saved by the server. This is the main server log. Which I'm showing you here. And I'm going to do a search for Russ, your size. Let me start down here. And you can see lots of each of the steps that you do get recorded here. See, I have you in for financial. Oh, and that's way back to the 18th. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened, Russ. I mean, most of the other people, no. Yeah, I don't see you. Do you have a coordinate real quick? And then I think we'll just have to move on, and I'll get to you separately. But what coordinate did you have? Now, it's possible when I'm doing coding changes or something like that that I could miss something, but okay, well, I think we just need to move on. Though he got a 4.5, and it would be very interesting to know if it's in the same direction. So maybe it would be worth doing. And the first one was over and the second one was under, so he'll be able to figure out which is which. Okay. As you all know, this is really very, very new. Okay, if we look at the omega group, in fact, here's an example where the two CRs are very close, a 3.4 and a 3.5. For whatever reason, this viewer got good matches in both cases, pretty good. One he thought a little better than the other, but 3.5 is wisely wagerable. Perhaps the intention was not strong enough to go to both the winning wild card and the other photo that you're going to see at the end, because it looks like there was a good description of the same picture, the one that was looked at. Or, again, the targets are chosen randomly, well, maybe, from Mark White's group, though you can use mine. Oh, okay, let's see what you got here. Okay, so you're saying 236, Russ, 236950. Let me see if you're in the system with that coordinate. Yeah, the coordinate is not in there at all. Now, it could be a problem with my coding somehow, or I could have been working the code. I don't know. Well, we'll have to work that on the side. But let me ask you this: was the first coordinate? Was that the first coordinate you got? 236980. You know, there were two coordinates. Was that the first one listed? I know it's the lower one. You used to work that way. Or was it the second one listed? Okay, because this is the order. You know, what's randomly done is there's, you know, we do go forward in linear time, so there's got to be a first one and a second one. What's random is whether it's over, under, or under, over. Okay, well, in this case, I wouldn't highlight either. So in this case, the prediction, I think, is pretty clearly a pass. Well, no, but Russ, that's the problem. I don't have it in the log. So we'll just ignore it. Here I'm waiting to see. I'd love support on this, but I'm going to go with under here, unless we can figure out yours. You know, it'd be either strongly under or if they were in different directions. You judged it and submitted it online. Interesting. Okay. Let's now go to the third group. They were involved in the coin toss. Does Denver or Seattle win the coin toss? But in this case, all of the CRs are lower than 3.5, and so we simply pass. There's nothing wrong with passes. The philosophy in all of this is to get as many hits as you can, minimizing the misses to have the highest hit rate possible. We're going for an 80% hit rate. My feeling is the most important thing is to just go into each of these feeling good and positive. Do a nice cool down. Don't rush it. If you're in a situation where you have to rush it, you feel any tension, you can't get rid of the tension, don't do it. And even then, we'll get passes, and that's fine. Okay, the third group had over-under, but just the first half. So the first half, oh, I think that's going to be a problem with the parlay. Those are considered related. But we do have one prediction, again, a separation of 2, which makes me feel good. And that's when I'm prepared to go ahead with one viewer. If I have multiple viewers and they're both in the same direction and only separated by 1, I'll go with that as well now. So this prediction is under. You understand my logic? There wasn't actually, I guess, a whole lot to discuss there.
And that's the first half.
And that's just for the first half, and there'll be a line for that. But I don't think they'll let you do parlays on what they call related wagers. And you could see how the first half and second half would be considered a related wager. We can wager on them independently. Well, we'll see. We'll see. You know, we're practically done with the formal part of this presentation. But let me make the prediction. Well, let me just do one more thing. I have one other place I can look for you, Russ. Let me see. Okay, what you're looking at here, all this information I'm showing you here is from the server. First groove. $236, that was it. Oh, okay. I also print the information. Interesting. Okay, good. We're all getting, I'll have to figure out what happened. However, Russ's information, while it didn't make it into the main log, I also printed into the individual group log because all this data is going to become part of analysis, which is going to allow me as a group manager to make better and better group predictions because I'll have information on each of you individually. And you all might be different. Some of you, even if you're 3.5 and 3, your 3.5 might be reliably in the right direction. So I'll know stuff like that. I'll also know recent trends versus long-term trends. Okay, so looking at this one, here are the coordinates. I don't know if you can read this on your screen, but it turns out the first coordinate was actually 905,360, and the second one was a 236. He then came in and got his picture. Here are his CRs, and his CRs, in fact, let me add those. Your 4 was for the second coordinate, the 236, and I think let's do this right. Okay, wait, let me just put it over here. Right. So that's so the 1.5 goes here, and the 4 goes here. So now we do have agreement. So now it's rather clear that the prediction for the over-under the whole game is going to be under. I hope that was somewhat educational for you too, because you sort of see the way the data is in the server. I will be able to now add Russ's to the main log, so that will be up to date. But I have to figure out what happened, and that's a programming problem. So I have to put on my programming hat and figure that one out. And while I'm doing that, sometimes there are other problems that occur, but I think you will all hopefully bear with me. The payoff for all of us will be, I believe, tremendous in the long term. Because you will also have access to this kind of data. So you will be able to look at your history and make judgments about how you might want to wager just based on your own. There have been, in the last webinar we gave, one person was in the opposite direction of everybody else, and that person may very well have wanted to wager in that direction. And we've seen some situations where, in fact, that would have been the correct thing to do. That, you know, sometimes you have a 2-to-1 and the 2 are wrong and the 1 is right. All of this is not 100%, as I think you all well know. And what we're working on is trying to increase the odds. Okay. Is this clear to where we are up to this point?
May I ask a quick question?
Of course, please.
This is Nancy. On the WWC, the over-under for the first half, can you tell me the 962,994, is that under? There we go. There we go.
Here you are.
What's the number for that, the transcript number? 962,994.
It was the first one that you got. I can't get that for you, Nancy. Let me get that.
Well, that's okay. That's okay.
No, it's not hard, especially since I've already brought up this. It's in the log. Here you are. Nancy Smith under was 962,994.
Perfect. Okay. That helps.
And that was the one you ranked, correct? You should have. That was the one you ranked high.
That's just what I wanted to confirm.
Yep. And so what we have is, for the first half, a prediction of under, and for the second half, a prediction of the under. Very interesting. Okay. So defense rules is what we're predicting.
Come on, game.
Okay, very interesting. So let's I think what I'd like to do now is, let me record this for the webinar, put this in the thing. So this was predictions made at the webinar, and I figured a way to do that. I have to make this smaller. So I can copy it into PowerPoint, so it'll become a formal part of this prediction. One of the beautiful things about precognition is you really can't cheat. You know, you get your hits and misses, and you're really using true precognition. It's kind of wonderful. So I'm going to paste this in here. And those are our predictions. Under, 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 under. Okay. Now, as you all know, no matter what happens, I just want to say a few more words, and then maybe we'll go over and we can see what the lines are, because I have to make a formal prediction to all the groups in terms of email, and I'll do that after we finish the webinar. So all that's left now is one more slide, and then together we can talk a little bit about wagering, and we can see if they'll permit that parlay, but we'll see. As you know, and as you saw in the philosophy before, feedback is really important. I mean, where do you get these good matches? Where does that come from? It comes from somehow having access to the information which you know for sure at feedback time. Now, your submerged consciousness, my yitrim, knows the winning side. It it's already been there. Yitrim is with me now, but from Yitrim's perspective, it's a memory. You know, I could go and try to do another remote viewing session, and again, I can ask him, okay, what do you remember about that? In my linear time sense, you know, Marty doesn't know. It uses what he calls precognition, but I'm getting a sense that precognition comes, yes, from my subconscious, but maybe from a put-together Yitrim type reality, which uses my subconscious in a way, and it doesn't have perfect access to the future. There may be even a smarter entity that does, and maybe Yitrim might get there someday, but able to communicate with me, but not yet. Okay, so now the long term, I think the sub wants. Now, over the years, some of these seem so obvious, but we all seem to bring these things up all the time. It wants things to remain interesting. And this protocol actually endeavors to do that, but just by the way it's set up. And we all go out of our way to choose interesting targets in our target pools and stuff like that. But also creative. It needs to be creative, needs to be meaningful, because both the conscious mind as well as the subconscious mind want that. I mean, come on, that's sort of, we're here. We get to live this wonderful life, and you'd like it to be as meaningful, and you love creativity. Those are the things that give most of us pleasure and joy. So I don't think there's any issue there. This partnership issue, you've heard me talk about it a lot because it's, in my view, critical. I remember many years ago when I first got into this business, in terms of a group, I mean, it goes back even further in terms of general interest. And anyway, I asked some people at IRVA if the perspective of my subconscious, you know, the idea of a subconscious has been around forever, collective unconscious, etc. If I should think of that as being a subservient person that I'm asking to give me questions to, hey, please give me this answer, should I take the point of view that it's smarter than me, you know, which in many ways it certainly is. In other words, am I kind of a servant to it? Is it a senior partner? And over the years, I have really come to the conclusion that the best point of view is that it's an equal partnership, that you and your sub together make your whole self, but it's an equal partnership. And the communication from that perspective is two ways. You're communicating with the sub, it's communicating with you. You both come from different languages, say, something like that. But that's what you're learning to do, is communicate. And guess what? The more you do this, the more you hold that intention, the more you know the communication is going to improve over time. It will. And it's for that reason both sides are equally important. Notice your sub actually sees the other target first. It communicated that to you with one of the two coordinates. It knows what that coordinate is. You know, I recommend saying it out loud because I think that improves the communication, because the vibrations of saying things out loud at feedback time can sync up with the vibrations when you do it at remote viewing time. And you guys will come up with other ways of improving communication skills. But they're both important. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else have any questions, comments? You're happy with this? Rachel, how about you? I think this is the first time you've actually done a prediction for us. How's this all feeling up to now? You there, Rachel? I lost her. Okay. And Nancy, from your perspective,
Rachel's writing it right now. Can you see what she's
oh,
writing?
that's right. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, easy. Yeah.
Okay, she's typing. Yeah, okay. Okay, I'm not seeing it. And Nancy, from your perspective, you were so important in the history of this because basically what I'm using and as the basis of the protocol is the approach of doing a prediction based on the winning wild card. And I've taken out the other part. How do you feel about all that?
It's kind of morphed just a little bit, and I love submitting a transcript and getting immediate feedback with just moments. It's just so fast, and
yep.
That's really that's fun. It's kind of empowering.
Okay, that's good. I noticed either in one of yours or Sam's early transcripts, you did what was done by someone this time, where the two coordinates, the two transcripts were very similar to each other and the winning wild card. That's the only thing which obviously people are learning how to do, because we've got 7 out of 8. We've got 7 hits and 1 miss so far. So the subconscious can obviously do all of this and can do the difference. And it's learning how to do it. So I'm glad you're enjoying it.
It is. That's one of the things that I worry about when I'm self-judging is, gosh, there are some things on both transcripts that match this photograph I'm looking at. Makes it harder.
Well,
I don't know what's bleed through and what isn't, and it's hard to tell until the game's over, really, and we can look at both. Is there a way to save the photo so that both pictures can be looked at the same time after the game? Yes, with a snip. Yes, there is. I answered my own question.
Yeah, and everything is now saved, so everything is on the server, and eventually I'm going to give you access to all of that. That's going to take a while. You know, I'm doing things.
Yeah, I don't think there's any rush.
What I think, right. But all of it is being saved, and you will have access to all your old transcripts and to all of your old targets.
And we'll look at them with bravery.
Okay. Someone else have a comment? I thought I heard.
Actually, I have one comment, Marty.
Sure.
I have a little issue with your
okay,
your model. In the beginning, when I first started doing this, I had a similar idea that the consciousness spreads out across time and we access all parts of it. But you know, there's more to it than that. And I just would put this little case to it, and I don't have a better model, but in the beginnings of RV, just regular remote viewing, people were viewing places they'd never been. Okay, so it goes to something else, and you know, you first times you would have some guy that you were partnered with would go out to the field someplace, and you connected to him. Okay, so you connect to other people too. Like I can say, okay, Marty's my partner, and I look and I see, oh, you've got that old bag of potato chips sitting next to you, and you know, that kind of thing. And it's not my own personal universe that I'm seeing, but more than that. That's my only comment.
Yeah. Well, I believe that's true. With the caveat, and maybe this does get to philosophy. You were seeing it, those potato chips, through the guy who was out there, and if you consider that be a direct consciousness connection, that's fine. I mean, that's one way to look at it. And in fact, I do believe that's going on. In addition, though, that person came back and told you about the potato chips. You then got it directly that way. And I'm not sure we can distinguish between those two. You know, the second way is sort of what we would call the normal feedback way. He came back and maybe gave you the last chip in the bag, you know, and you knew he had potato chips there. or he told you about it.
I can agree with that, but they also were drawing pictures of the Soviet missile construction sites, you know, and stuff, places they'd never been.
That is one of the best examples. That's the case of Pat Price, and Pat Price, in his physical life, never saw that. And so he was, in fact, there are two hypotheses for that have been put out. The first one is he picked it up from consciousness, which is the one you're talking about. And about 6 months ago, this subject came up again, and I had a person tell me something which I thought was rather interesting. Pat Price's, I'm just telling you the hypothesis, Pat Price's spirit soul that lived on after his death connected up with him and got the information, which I thought was sort of interesting. Anyway, reading other people's conscious minds is definitely a capability I believe we can have, and the subconscious, as far as I'm concerned, is free to do that in coming up with the winning and other correct transcripts. You know, the idea is to get the correct information. That's the intention.
So looking at it, turning it around, I am this greater being that has its connection with the one, the greatness, the all there is. And I chose to travel around in this biological body. So my greater self, which is connected with your greater self and all of our greater selves, rides in this biological transporter.
Right.
And it's chosen that, and it's a vessel. And so this vessel, this biological body, I am kind of poured into it, and it communicates. It has to learn, because it's a biological body, how to be. It's my vehicle for walking around, and because it's biological, it's limited.
Right. And that's right.
I have to learn. I have to learn to communicate how to open up the neurotransmitters, or whatever they are, or how to access it through RV or meditation. And it's kind of a just accessing my greater self, which is connected and lasts forever.
Yep. You know, it's so interesting because we all struggle with just the right words and everything, but I do think we're all very close to having the same ideas about all this.
I just think we're so connected on such a bigger scale, and I say that as a GM looking at the members of our group and how often we'll have the same little drawings, even though they don't necessarily connect with the target. We're all thinking the same way, or we'll tap into each other's lives and put that in the transcript. It's very amazing. The whole thing is just, the more I learn about it, the more amazing it is.
It's just, we are amazing creatures, and you know, there's so many books out there that imply we're almost infinite in capability, and I tend to think that's true. We only put limits on ourselves. That's the Monroe Institute kind of line. I gave you a link of what is my take on the philosophy that I believe, and it includes what we've all talked about here. Basically, anything that goes into consciousness at any time, past, present, and future, is available to us now, period. That's the bottom line of the model, like a holographic universe. You know, you're part of it. You have access to everything. Now, getting that access and communicating it to your conscious mind, that's the communication thing that we're trying to learn. I did see, I was just looking at the chats here too, I did see someone asked if the prediction on under was for the total game, and that is true. The first one was for total points, the second one was for the half.
So we don't really have enough to do a parlay, do we?
Well, okay, let's do that now. Let me bring over my browser. I have.
Oh, I'm sorry, I changed the subject. I took you off task.
No, that was just what. Unless somebody else has something they want to talk about or share, I think we ought to talk about parlays. And does everybody understand what a parlay is? First of all, I'm going to assume yes. It was talked about on the list, and just basically the total points, and we'll do it here. I have several accounts. I really believe we're going to be quite successful in this, and I don't want to attract attention. A lot of people who know more about the sports gambling part of this than I do say if you start winning too big, they'll either turn you off or give you trouble in some way or another. I want to stay below the radar, as they say. But this is a good site. Bookmaker.eu is one of the very, very early guys. They've been around forever. If you're going to play this game with an offshore group, this is a good one. And so I just logged on, and we're doing football, so they make it as easy as possible. You know what? Let me go back. I see that I had an option here. I'm going to do straight wages. We'll do parlays later, but for the NFL, and the other choice was NFL under first half. You can see all the things here, like the prop. Had there been a coin flip, had been one of our choices, I would have gone there. But let me bring up all of the wagers, potential wagers for the full game and then for the first half. So I hit continue. And notice I'm doing straight. So these are individual ones, not parlays. We'll do the parlay next and see if they'll let us. So here we are. Here are the teams, Seattle and Denver. Here's the first half, Seattle and Denver. And here's the over and under. So I'm now seeing for the first time, and when I put out the formal note to the group, it'll have a line of 48.5. Okay, so it's always based on the line when I look. And that does sometimes change, and we have to live with that. It doesn't usually change much, and sometimes it changes in our favor, sometimes it changes in another direction. It's just the way it is. Usually it doesn't matter. Occasionally it does. Now, so we are now said under 48.5. This is now my personal account, and I'm going to put in a personal wager. So the under here is 24. Okay, so halftime. I'm writing this down because I will lose access to that. So that's 24. So that'll be the line under there. And the other things they do is what's called a spread, and then the straight odds. So here, it turns out Denver is favored, and if I wanted to go on the favored team, I'd have to put up $138 to win 100, or $13.80 to win 10. It's all proportional, but the way they usually talk about it. Notice here it's minus 110, minus 110. What that means is if I put up $11, I will get my $11 back, of course, if I win plus 10. So I will make 10. So I must risk 11 to make 10. Here I must risk $138 to make 100. Here it's the other way around. The underdog is Seattle, and I would put up $100, and I would make, if I win, a profit of $118. So that's how you read this stuff. And the spread, notice now, and this is why I always like to play the over-under or the spreads is because you can see it's 50-50. I can go either way and the odds are the same. That makes my probability analysis easier. It also means, well, I like it. It goes in even. And the guys who do this are very good at picking that even place. So in this case, what that says is I can take Seattle and 2.5 points. Since they're the underdog, they might in fact lose, but if they only lose by 2 points and I pick this side, I will be a winner. But the favorite has to win by more than 2.5 points. But we did not have that as one of our parlay possibilities. Okay, so then the next thing you do is you hit continue. And I now get to put some real money on this. My philosophy has always been to never wager more than like 10%. Actually, Tom did an analysis. He came to the conclusion the number should be 8%. Just because, you know, you have losing streaks and things like that. So what I'm going to do is bet 30 on the whole game. That was the strongest one we had, and then maybe 20 here. Okay, so I'm putting $50 on this, and that'll be my wager. So notice, I actually put up 30. I had an option. I could have had this number over here, but the default, which of course helps them because you're betting more, but I had to put up 33 to win 30 or 22 to win 20. That's what the minus 110 means here. So that's how they make money. They don't really care which way you go. Okay, so I am now in. My bet is in. Now let's do a new bet, and let's talk about the parlay here. So I'm changing this, and let's see what they do about parlays. So NFL. Okay, so I can choose in principle as many of these as I want. So let's do that under and that under, and let's see if they would let me do a parlay and if they would tell me the odds. Yeah, see, it's an invalid combination. And you can see where that makes sense. If it's really low in the first half, the odds have now changed for being low for the whole game, which is what we hope happens. So let's, though, just to show, let's do the following. Let's take this here and God, does anybody have an intuition on who's going to win and by how much? Let's see, if it's under, I'm going to use logic here, not intuition. And I'm actually going to put just a couple of bucks on it for fun. It's fun to watch the game having these wagers going. If it's going to be under, I mean, I think that means the fence is going to be, but it's only a half a point here. Denver's the favorite. I'm going to go here. So these, I think, will be independent wagers. Let's see if that's true. Okay. So now it shows both of these. They'll even let me change the odds on that, but I don't want to do that. Let me just put $5 on that. I mean, I didn't use RV. I really currently try to only do betting, even financials, strictly based on RV. You know, I'm a believer in this, but I have to use it. It doesn't say here what the odds are, but I'm sure it will on the next page. Okay, so notice here now, for $5, I get to win $13.22. And that's because in each of those cases it was like an even kind of wager. So I would have expected, another way of looking at parlays is if you win the first one, you put it all down on the second, all of your winnings plus your original wager down on the second one, and then you sort of let it ride. And notice in that case, if I were to do it, I'd have $5 if I won the first one, and let's forget about the money they take, the VIG. I would have $10. If I then put $10 down, I'd end off with $20 if I won. Well, here I'm going to end off with $18.22. Guess who gets that difference on average? The sports book. But they're the ones who are enabling us to wager. So one of the reasons I like financials, by the way, and I really encourage you, ultimately I'm going more and more to financials because as we get bigger and bigger, that's even a bigger market than sports, 100% legal in the United States, et cetera, et cetera. And there, the take by commissions is much, much less. Okay, so I'm actually going to put this in. So I did a personal parlay, but I'm not going to suggest one for us because there's nothing we can place. Okay. Any questions, comments on any of this? Okay. Hey, we can go enjoy the rest of our day. I'm going to put in the formal predictions to the groups, each of the groups. We had 2 groups that passed and 2 groups that made specific predictions. And remember, pay a lot of attention to your feedback. Have fun and keep precogging.
Thank you, Marty. This was so fun. Thanks.
Good. Okay, all of you take care.
Bye, Marty. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.